Are you looking for another way to organize your content? Maybe you are creating videos or podcasts or blogging, whatever it is. This is an amazing option. Using Notion to organize your content. For me, it has been a game changer, and I want to share that with other people. And I chose to do the live build option because I really want people to see how you can customize your space and all of the options that you have. And I think the idea of doing a live build allows you can kind of build along with me. So hopefully you have Notion downloaded. I'd love to hear for the people who are here live in the chat. Let me know, what's your experience level with Notion? Never used it, kind of tinkered with it, or maybe you actually use it quite a bit, but you're just looking for some ways to refine what you're doing. I would love to hear from you. The other thing that's really exciting is that yesterday I found out that I am a Notion ambassador now. So I applied a little while ago, kind of forgot, and then got an email last night letting me know that I'm officially a Notion ambassador. So I love spreading the good word about this productivity tool. I love it. I love talking about it. I love teaching it. So that is what we are going to do. And what I've done is I kind of mapped out this build, and it could change depending on what we end up doing. If we have questions or there's something you really want to focus on, absolutely, I'd love to hear from you. But this is sort of what in my head, how I've mapped out this 4-part series about using Notion for content creation. And yes, this is a Notion page. And actually, I'm going to bump up a little bit so it's a bit bigger there, a little easier to see. So for part 1, we're going to look at this your core database. So your content database, we're going to set that up. We'll pick what are the different property types what are you going to track about your content? What do you want to be able to sort and filter and see? And then I also want to show you how you can see your information in different ways and really figure out what's the way that you like. Some people really like the board view. Some people love the calendar view, list view, all sorts of different ways that you can see your information. And you don't have to choose. You can see more than one. And we'll also look at multiple views. And what I love, for anyone who has seen a sneak peek at my content creation dashboard, I actually have the same database side by side, things that have a date and things that don't have a date. And then I can drag those in and play around. So I'm going to teach you how to do that in case that's something that you want. And today we'll also create some templates. So what is the type of content that you make over and over? And let's show you how you can save time with a template. And also it can really make it look good because you can add custom icons and you can really make the page, I think, look good. And that makes it more fun to me. I will also show you how you can create columns so we can start to actually map out a dashboard. And I'll teach you the quirks about columns because sometimes they're finicky. You're trying to drag a database somewhere and it's not creating a column, or maybe you've never created columns at all, but I'll show you that. And then linked databases, meaning the same database, but you can see it on either a different page, the same page, and you can see exactly which information you want to see. So that's part 1. That's what we're going to do today. And then for the remaining parts, just to give you a sneak peek, this is sort of where my head's at, but we can always amend as we go. But I'd like for part 2, 3, and 4. So part 2 is all about keeping track of the tasks that are related to your content. So it's highly likely that you have a workflow or a process that you follow each time you are creating a piece of content. And so capturing exactly what is your procedure, and then how do we put that into a way where you don't miss any of the steps? And there are a couple of different options for how you can do this. You could have simple checklists that you refer to, but you can also have a task database that is connected to your content. And you can actually assign tasks to a specific piece of content. And there are some really cool tricks for how you can do that. And then part 3, related databases. So what else do you want to track? Maybe it's social media. Maybe you want to have that in a separate database, which is what I personally recommend depending on the type of content that you create. Also, do you want to be tracking B-roll or maybe tech that you use, or if you are featuring products, if you have guests on your channels, if you have sponsors for your content, so all of that can be tracked. And so how do you organize your information in a way that makes sense, that's easy to find, and that also kind of applies some logic that you want to use when you're trying to put together a functional system that's going to track all of your content? And then finally, part 4 is really just refining and making it your own. So what are some of the friction points? You know, if you've been working with it for a little while, something's not working for you for some reason, we want to address that. So as soon as you notice something is not working, let's fix that. How do you use Notion to collaborate with other people? So how do you share pages, create resources? For example, I did consider sharing this page with all of you so you could have a copy of it. I decided not to do that just because this is going to be a living document. Maybe I'll change my mind and I could share this with you. But this is the type of thing where I could easily create this page as shared and then put that out there so people can access it. They can duplicate it or not. You can treat it more like a website, or you could actually have it more like a template. And also let's talk about formulas. So some of the things you could do is maybe track your metrics. You could even track your task completion. How many things have I done so far? It can get really fun once you start tweaking and playing around with it. And then maybe you change something and you want to track your content differently, or you have a new category. How do you quickly do a bulk change? How can you apply different properties easily so that doesn't feel like a giant headache? So I'm just going to check over in the chat to see. Okay, so we have a bunch of different backgrounds. So not used it, just started with it. What else? We got zero experience, beginner. So a lot of beginner. That's fantastic. No prior knowledge. And if you do have some experience, like I see Matt from All Things YouTube is here. I know he's been nerding out on Notion, which is very fun for me to watch. And so Ken is saying, I want to make weekly video content and create an editorial calendar. Yes. And so the other thing I just want to say when it comes to Notion is that before, so when I was creating content before, I would throw my ideas into Apple Notes and try and organize them there. I had little subfolders. And then I would have a spreadsheet in Google Sheets where I had the different dates. So that was my editorial calendar, was in a spreadsheet. And then I would actually go and write an outline in a Google document, or sometimes in Apple Notes. It was inconsistent. It was just really confusing. And so I did not like it, and it was not a good workflow. And as soon as I changed over to Notion, that was one place where I could place my ideas, organize my content, plan out the dates, assign dates to them. I could track every link. I could connect the content. I could connect it to tasks. So, and because I also had a task manager, I was all over the place. And now I'm in one place. And that is what I love about Notion. And Notion refers to itself as an all-in-one workspace. And that's really what it is. So let's get to it. Let's start designing it. And just know that when you are creating your space, there are usually multiple ways that you can do something. And so just play. That's something I really recommend. So what I've done here is I've actually created just a new workspace. And so this only has this page here, this Notion for content creation page. And then I just created a page called Sandbox, which I highly recommend if you are new to Notion, even if you're not new. This is not my idea. This is from other Notion experts who've gone before me. But having a sandbox where you can play, just try an idea, create a template, try different properties, try different text options, etc. So having a sandbox is a really good idea. And the reason that I want to start today with Sandbox is I'd like to start gathering a few ideas of what it is that I would want to be tracking. And I do want you to think about that. What information are you trying to classify, categorize, capture, organize, and get an idea of that? So starting with a simple list is a really good way. Now, because there are some people who are brand new to Notion, this is a page. And so everything in Notion is a page, or you can have a database that's got multiple pages. But at the core, you've got a page. So that's your unit of information. And then you can have pages with databases, with pages with databases. So you can kind of go deeper down the levels. But right now, this Sandbox is just it's an upper level page. So you can see it in my sidebar here. And you can just press enter. As you can see here, the instructions. I can just have an empty page. I can pick a template because there are templates available. I could make this entire page into a database. So there are different views. You can see table, board, list, calendar, gallery, and timeline. Those are the different options, the ways you can see your database information. I'm going to just click enter, and sort of create more free form page, sort of like the one that I just showed you here. This is an example of a page where I've got some just text, I've got some titles and some quotes, and this is actually a linked database. So these 4 areas are all the same database, but filtered to show you different information. So these are all linked databases that you're seeing on this page. So on my Sandbox, I just want to start gathering ideas. I really recommend that you start writing down what it is that you want to capture. In this live build, I am going to pretend I'm a person who wants to do YouTube content and blogs about Notion. So what I'm going to do is I want to capture videos. I'm going to be making YouTube videos on Notion. And I'm going to also have corresponding blog posts, which in my own personal life is on the wish list, but just doesn't seem to actually happen. But in a perfect world, I would have a blog post for every video that I make. So those are my 2 core pieces of content that I really want to capture. And when it comes to videos, what I could do right now is write down what do I want to track with my videos, but I'm actually going to do that in the actual database. I'm going to come back to this Sandbox throughout this live build anytime I want to capture ideas about what it is that I'm looking to add or include in my space. And I see a question here from Patrick. Can you talk about the advantages of having a paid account versus free? This is a really good question. So the free account will do, basically, I use the free account for months. It'll do everything that you need it to do. With a free account, you can actually invite guests into your workspace to collaborate, and you can have up to 5 guests. The paid account, the personal pro, which is what I have, that is an account where you can, basically the advantage is that you can have unlimited guests. Is unlimited or 100? You can have a lot of guests. And the other element is that you can have the version history. And so the version history, if you make a mistake, you accidentally delete something, you can just go back into your version history and choose a prior one and kind of reinstate that. And then you can work backwards. That to me is worth the price of the personal pro plan, which is a really affordable price. I think it's $4 per month. So really good one. So let's actually we're going to add our content dashboard, and I'm going to actually call it content dashboard. You can call it whatever you want. And because this is going to have multiple things on it, I'm going to change. So you saw that there's kind of a narrow view. There's also a wide view. And if you go up to the top right corner, you'll see some different options. So one is that you can change the look of the font. So maybe you would prefer to have a serif font like this. So you can kind of change and play around with it. You can also change if you want slightly smaller text or bigger text, and then full width. So I'm going to make this full width because I want to have as much information on this page as possible. So that's one of the changes that I want to make. And I am going to choose this as a free form. It's not just going to be a database only. I want to have multiple pieces of content on this page. So I've decided to just click on it. And one of the first things I want to do is to create a database. So with Notion, anytime you press the slash, and it will say, just start pressing slash to see all of the commands. You can see everything that is an option. So you can insert text. Everything's a block. So a text block, a new page. So that would be a sub page within this page. To-do list. You can see headings, bulleted list, numbers, toggles, quotes, dividers. You can link to an existing page. You can have a call out box, and then you can mention people and dates, etc. So you can see all of the different options. And I want to create an inline database. And so with this, let's just start with an inline table. Now, the other thing I can do which I'll show you below, if I press slash and I start to type data, you'll actually see all the different databases. So anything you want to insert, you can start to type it after the slash and it will come up. So I have this table. So this is going to be my content table, and I'm going to name it content. And with this, the first question you want to start thinking about is what are the different properties that you want to be able to track with your content? And so there are a couple of ways we can build this. We can actually click on the top of any of these columns and start changing what they're called and the type of property. So these are all called properties. If you want to add a new one, you can just add a column or property here. The other thing you can do is open, this is a blank entry, but I could open that and I can do the same thing here. If I click on tags, I can change what the name is of this property or the type of property. And if I want to add a new one, I can add a property here. So that's another way that you can add it. So let's just envision that I am thinking about my videos. So one of the things that you might do for your content is maybe this is, you want to call this channel or platform, depending on where it lives. So in this case, this fake example, I want to have YouTube videos, but also a blog. So I'm going to have more than one channel. And so I can leave this as multi-select, means there are going to be a few options. It's like a drop down, but you can have more than one. If you chose select, this is a list of options, so it's a drop down, but you can only have one. So it sort of forces you to make a decision. So in this case, because I actually think videos and blogs might have the same topic, but I actually consider them two distinct pieces of content because one is a completely different format. Even though they might have the exact same title, perhaps they are different. I'm going to choose select, and I am going to have, all right, you know what? I'm not going to call this channel. I'm going to call this type. So this is type of content. So I can have I'm going to say recorded video. This is the fun part where you type live in front of people and they watch you make mistakes, which we all do. The other type that I would maybe do on this channel is a live stream. And then the third type of content is a blog. So those are the types that I'm having. I'm going to call that type. And then let's see. Okay, so type, there we go. Now, if you were having on more than one platform, so maybe you actually are publishing content to YouTube and Facebook or maybe LinkedIn, you can have those different platforms listed. Because in this example, I'm not going to do that. That would actually sort of be a waste of my time to say to always choose YouTube. If I'm always going to be doing videos on YouTube, I don't have to put that there. But if you are having content going to multiple areas, let's show an example where you might have multi-select, and let's call this platform. And for this version, for an option, and by the way, for these, I'm just starting to type it. So if I said Facebook is one option, I can create that and create YouTube as another option. Maybe Twitch is another option. I know some people go live to LinkedIn. So these are examples of how you can start to create these different options. Right now, all of them are attached to this video, but then you can just kind of narrow it down. So maybe I'm going to live to Facebook and YouTube. The other little thing while I'm on this is that you can change these colors. So maybe you want these to match and say, I want Facebook to be blue. So these three little dots on the side allow you to change that. Maybe I want YouTube to be red. Maybe I want Twitch to be purple. And I want LinkedIn to be blue. So you can customize these drop downs. And so that's an example of how you might say, and this example, maybe I have a recorded video, I'm going to post it on Facebook and YouTube. So that's an example of how you can start to think about the different areas that you want. Now I see a question here from Matt. It says, might be advanced, skip if desired. If it is if a table row has its own page, how can you delete that page but keep the row intact? Can you give me a little bit more context, Matt, on that? You could, if I'm understanding you correctly, I think you can delete the contents. So let's say that I had called this, new video, and I had recorded Facebook, YouTube, etc. So I've got this information in here. So you're saying you don't want to just delete this entry. So you can always click on these little dots to delete, duplicate, etc. If you don't want to delete it, you could just empty the information, uncheck these things. That could take a long time if you have a lot of entries. I'm not sure why you would want to save the row when you could just create a new row by clicking new. So Oh, and I see the question about dark mode. Why don't you use this in dark mode? So I actually do have, my personal one is usually in dark mode. Actually, I go back and forth, and I recently did an overhaul on my space and I changed it to, I've been using dark mode a lot more lately. What I actually like though is when you design a space that looks good in dark and light mode. But for anyone curious, if you go into settings, you can change your appearance between light, dark, or use the system setting of your computer. So if you want to see, so dark mode looks like this. And so if you are adding icons and colors, I like to try, what does it look like in dark and in light? Does anyone have a preference for, I'm going to go back to light. I think that might be easier for people to see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to go back to light mode for now though. Okay. So content, and yeah, Matt, let me know if there's some other questions there. And I see a question of what camera do you use? So I am using the Sony ZV-1. Full disclosure, a few people have commented on how my camera will do like an auto focus and it kind of does a little refocus. So I have been dreading changing it to manual focus, and I decided to try the other day. And not only was it a disaster, I think I may have changed the ISO and I don't know how to, anyway. So I feel like my camera image has changed a little bit since I did that attempt. Anyway, I'm getting aside. That is not important right now, but that, yeah, Sony ZV-1 is what I use. So we've got this content. So let's consider what else, and let me know. I'd love to hear, what would you want to track? I'm going to add a few other things that I track in my videos, but is there something that if you are creating videos or blogs, what is something you would want to have when you are tracking your content? So a really simple example for me is I always want to have a link or a URL to my content. So I would call this link, and then in property type. So you can change your property types. So these are all the options that you have: text, number, the select, which is the single drop down, multi-select, where you can pick more than one, date, person. And when it says person, it means that person has an account with Notion. So they are maybe a guest in your space. If you're doing a collaborative project with someone else and you've invited them to your space, that means you could assign them to things, or you could put that person beside that content. Files and media. This is both upload and links to files and media. A checkbox, URL, email, and phone. And then we'll get into the advanced later. So this is going to be a URL. So the benefit of this is when you have a link in here, you can kind of quickly hit the link button and open that link. And it helps with making sure that whatever you've put in there is actually a link. So let's do link. And so Matt, a link example is in your Facebook Messenger. Do you mean from you, Matt? Okay, what else are we tracking? So the other things we would track, let's take a look. The date. You want to know what date is this content actually planned for? And now you might consider having more than one date in here. You might consider having a published date, and you might have another date if you are tracking, maybe you're working with a team and you want to have another date where it's ready or done. A date maybe that you upload it and a date that it actually gets published. That's completely up to you, but that's something that you definitely want. I also like to have a status of your content. So here, this is where I would have a single select, because you can only have one status at a time. And this is just tracking where you are in the process. So I like to have idea as one option. And then I usually personally will have research. So maybe it's a topic where I actually need to gather some research and collect before I start working on it. I like to have a time called prep, where I'm actually putting it together. And then let's just peek at my little list here. Then we can have filming or filmed. I personally like to choose filmed because I change it when it's done. There's one where it might be editing or post that you could have. And then scheduled is another that I have in my list. So if I've put it up and it's scheduled, but it's not published yet, and then published. So that's an example of how, but you can do whichever categories you like, but this allows you to not only keep track of where it is, This will be a nice option when you want to see your content in a board view where you can actually see where it is along the status line. And so I'm going to just empty that for now. I see you don't have to change to manual, just focus speed to normal. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to get that fixed. I was putting off my camera stuff knowing it's going to be a headache because it's also on my teleprompter and so it's not that easy to get to. So Ken says, is this best used on a desktop? Does it work on tablet or smartphone? So there is a mobile version, and I don't think I put it in the list, but I do want to talk about that. There are certain views, like the dashboard that I'm building today, because I like to use a side-by-side option to organize information. I don't love that on mobile. And so I like to use mobile for just seeing a quick list, to be able to grab ideas. So it's great if you're out and you have an idea, you just want to drop it in there. You can have a little list that you can easily get to your phone, and there are widgets too for Notion. So you can just pop that open, add an idea, close it up. But I don't really like to do a lot of work in the mobile app. I prefer, and usually when you're doing content like this, you tend to be in more of a desktop situation. But there is an option for mobile. But you'll just start to see certain views are better in mobile versus others. And okay, dark mode is awesome. Okay, so, Matt, you didn't know about dark mode. Yeah, dark mode. I do like some dark mode. Okay, what else do we want to have here? Okay, description. This is where you might want to capture the description, like if you have a video, or even if you are doing content that is maybe micro content, like you're just actually doing more of social media posts as your main type of content, you can add your caption maybe instead of description. And then what else do we have here? So media. So maybe you want to have, let's say, your thumbnails, if you are making video or a featured image. So you could call it whatever you want, but this could be a file, so you can keep track of media that's attached or associated with that. And then you could also have tags. Like let's say that you have tags or maybe a category of your content. So perhaps you like to talk about different, so maybe for Notion, an example of a tag is that I want to do a case study for one of the videos. Maybe I want to do something that's specific on formulas. Maybe I want to do a team focused video. So you can it's almost like tagging or categorizing your content, so that if I wanted to see what are all of the pieces of content that I did that are a case study, that are formulas, that are a team, that are maybe tips and tricks. So this is just an example of how you can start to classify. It's sort of like if you have a blog post and you want to be able to categorize your blog post, you can kind of think in those terms. That could be really helpful for you. Another thing that I've done, but I don't actually track as much anymore, is I used to write down what I was wearing in my videos so that I wasn't wearing the exact same thing every single time. And then I just stopped caring. So I don't usually use that category. But let's say you are someone who wants to make sure that you don't always wear the same thing over and over. You could actually track, like, what am I wearing? Maybe you have a drop down of different, shirts that you wear in your content. But what I want you to do is think, what would you have, or what would you like to track when it comes to your different types of content? But these are some really good starting out ones, especially having the status. And you can see how you've got these little dots here. You can drag these around and reorder them in whatever order you want. So maybe you want the type first, etc. Maybe you want the link a little bit lower down. You can reorganize these and have them however you want. So this is a page, and it's a page within a database. So if I click out of this, this is my database. But if I open this, this is a page. And if I just want to work on this page, maybe I'm preparing this video, I can actually open this as a page and just work on this video. So let's say that I'm going to do a video called Introduction to Formulas in Notion. So this is the name of my content, or maybe it's a working title because I haven't done my research yet on what I would actually call it. So I've got the title here, and then I can start to say, okay, I think this one's going to be a recorded video. The status, it's just an idea right now. This one will be on YouTube. The date that I want to have it is maybe, on the first Saturday in June, and I can write up a little description now, or I can do that later. I don't have any content yet, and this one would be formulas. So that's an example of how you can maybe work on it. But because it's a page, it actually has a body. And so whenever you have a page that's associated with a database, you'll have properties at the top. All of the database properties will be available. And then you have your body at the bottom. And this is where I like to do things like drafting my outline. And so this is where you can start to maybe collect ideas. You can add imagery, whatever you want to do down here. This is sort of your open space that you can work with. So an example, let's say I want to have a heading. So I start to just type the word heading, or if you want, you can start H1, H2, H3, and maybe I call this outline. And I just start to outline what it is I'm going to talk about for this video. And so that's an example where maybe I have, bullet point, main idea 1, main idea 2, etc. So you can just start to build out, and this content won't show up in that table. So if I go back to my content dashboard, I don't see the body of that. I can kind of scroll over and see all the different columns. I'm not going to see that outline here because that's more of the working, the area that you'd work with in the actual page when you open that page. Just seeing a few chats. I'm going to come back to the chat for a second. So, okay. Yeah. Everything should be in dark mode. And Alner is saying here, looks like you define the database structure first. Can you add, modify? Yes, that is a great question. So you absolutely can. I can have, all sorts of entries in here, and I realize I want to start tracking something else. So maybe while I'm working on this video, I realize that I want to add something new. I'm trying to think of an example of something that I would want to add to it. Let's just take the top example. We'll just call clothing. So maybe I want to add that later, and I say, okay, I'm going to have a clothing option. I can add this here in this video. And now if I go back, you can see that it's showing up at the end here. Nope, where did it go? Clothing, it's over here. It randomly showed up in the middle. But if I open, these are blank, but these are pages, you'll see clothing is on there. So anytime you add it, no matter which page you're in, it will add it to all of them. And so you can easily, once you realize you've got a missing link, just add it in there. And then you can always, assign things differently. So let's say for clothing, I add this after the fact, and I have, black top, and maybe I've got, a green top. This is really super basic. And maybe I have a purple top. But this is just a really quick example of maybe I have some categories that I want to add. So let's say that you've got a bunch of these that are already in here, and I'm just going to say video 2, video 3, video 4. And one of the things that I can do is I can either let's say I know video 2 and 3, I'm wearing a black top. I can highlight both of these, and I can edit multiple properties together. I was going to do this later, but I might as well show you. And my face is covering part of this. So let me just do this for a second. There we go. So I've dragged them both. I click on the two together and I say edit property. And then I can say that I want to change clothing to my green top. So now what I've done is I've just kind of bulk edited those. Maybe this one is a black top. So you can quickly change some information from out here. The other thing you can do is switch to a board view and edit your information. And we'll talk about that soon. But that's an example of how you can edit or add any kind of property whenever you want. Now you can also do it from here. I can just say, oh, this one I'm wearing a black top. And so you can just quickly drop down and choose whatever you want. So there are multiple ways to do that. Let's actually give these some names. Oh, one other thing. You'll see that now there's a little, beside introduction, you'll see that there's a little page. And that is because I have content in the body. So in here, there's nothing in the body. I haven't done anything to it yet. Whereas in this one, I have content. I've got an outline here. And that is what will happen. That's the difference between seeing this little page and not seeing this page. I see Patrick saying for select, can you set a default value for new rows? So yes and no. So if you have a filtered table, which we will show you. So let's say I had a filtered table just to have only like black tops or only recorded videos. So maybe I have a linked view that's just recorded videos. As soon as I add content to that, it will actually take on those properties. I'm going to get into that. I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to confuse anybody off the bat, but you can. But right now, because this is just the main original content database, it's not filtered. It doesn't have any of those properties. It will just be blank when you start out. But that's where templates come in, and templates are actually something that I want to show you. So this is and actually just for order's sake, let's take a look here. So we want to create the database. We want the property types. So I've kind of gone over those two. So now let's look at the views before we get into the filtering, sorting, and the templates. So for this dashboard, I now have a few different videos, and let's give them some, let's actually flesh these out a little bit. So maybe I'm going to do one on filtered views. Maybe I want to do a video about habit tracking in Notion. Maybe I'm going to have one on, actually this is nerdy, but knitting projects. So I've been using Notion for my knitting projects. So maybe I would do a video on showing how you can track, and every row I check off as a little checklist. It's pretty awesome. If anyone knits, let's talk, because I'm loving Notion for knitting projects. Maybe I want to have one on, team task tracking is another one. And let's create a couple more video options. So we've got some stuff to work with. Perhaps for Notion, I want to have one on or like a library or knowledge hub for tracking books that you're reading, videos you want to watch. And maybe I also, let's do one on meal planning. So this is probably not advised for starting a channel with all of these random topics, but they're all related to Notion, and these are some topic ideas. So what I can do is I could start going through this and say which one's going to be a live stream, which one's going to be not. But you know what might be nice is to actually see this in a board view and start to move content around. So right now you are seeing a table view, but I can click add a view, and with this same data, we can look at it in a different way. So let's take a look at the board view, and you can name it something if you know that you're going to organize. So we're saying it's a Kanban view. That one is for Doc Rock. He teases me when I say Kanban. So Kanban view. This is the board view. This is where you can see things organized. So anywhere where I have that select or that multi-select, these are ways I can group information. So let's call one by type, by content type. So we can organize. So, and it actually did default to the type. It doesn't always do that. So when you go to this board view, if you have more than one select or multi-select, these three little dots in the right corner, if you click on those and you go, you'll see group by. So that's one way that you can change how you group it. These are all the different ways I can group this information: by type, by platform, by status, by tags, by clothing. And so you choose the one that you want. But when you hover over the table, you can also, it disappeared on me, but it shows up here too. So yeah, you can kind of toggle between your type. So right now, these are all the ones I haven't put as a certain type of content. And so this is where I can actually start dragging them. So maybe I want the library one to be a live stream. I want knitting projects to be a recorded video. I want habit tracking to be a live stream. Task tracking can be recorded, meal planning. Now let's say I don't have any under blog, and these are just general topics. So what I could do is actually duplicate some of these. So maybe I want to have a blog post on meal planning with Notion. So I can actually click on these three buttons that say duplicate. So now I've got this copy, and I'm going to just take off copy, and I can either do this here and say I want this to be a blog post, or I can duplicate, let's say I duplicate habit tracking, and then I just drag it here, and then I can edit the name of this. The other thing, that I can do, which I think is awesome, is you can hold down the Option or Alt key. So let's say I want to do a blog post about the library or Knowledge Hub. Hold down Option or Alt and then drag, and you create a copy automatically. And this works anywhere in Notion, even if you just have a word. So maybe I have the word video here. I can just have my cursor over these little dots, press down Option, and just drag it, and I've got a copy. So that's an amazing way to copy things, FYI. So, and then I just want to clean this up though, because I don't want it to always say copy of. But that's an example of how you can kind of easily duplicate information. You can move information. And maybe we want to see another board view. Well, let's add a type where we can see it. What were my other options? By platform. So we can have one by platform. It's a board view, create. And now here is where we would want to change it. So group by platform. None of these have actually been assigned except for this one. So this is where maybe I actually want to grab, I know that this, no, I actually can't see so I want to see if this is a blog or not, because my blogs are going to be on my website. So I can actually click on properties and I can toggle on type. And now I can see what is a blog, what is a live stream, what's a recorded video. Maybe I don't want to see what clothing I'm wearing, so I can just toggle this off. So you can play around with which content you want to show up in this. So now I don't want any of these blogs to be on these platforms. I want them, but I want the videos to be. So maybe my live streams are going to be on YouTube, and I can select more than one and drag them over. But maybe I want my recorded videos to show up on Facebook and also on YouTube. Now they can be on more than one. Full disclosure, I'm realizing I don't know how to make them on both, but if I open them and say that I want it to be on both. Anyone who does know, this is one area that I actually just realized I don't. So now though, I've added them to YouTube and Facebook, these recorded videos. So now they're showing up under both. So it's the same one. So knitting projects and knitting projects, that's not a duplicate. That is just one piece of information. But because this is a multi-select option, I'm going to see it under both. I hope that makes sense. Oh yeah, hey, Doc, you're here. Yes, I said it right. I thought you might be proud. Shayna, nice to have you with me. So let's just, I see a question for select. Oh no, I already answered that one. Great. And okay, great. No more questions. So let's look at other views. So the other view that you might want to see is, now I personally, timeline for content, this is more, in my opinion, good for projects that you're working on or maybe tasks. So I'm going to skip over that one for content for right now, but let's take a look at calendar. And this is actually a view that I really like to see. And this for me is one of the best views for content. Now, right now you can see at the top corner, there's no date because I haven't assigned dates to any of my content. So you can click on this and it will show all of the pieces of content that don't have a date just yet. And so these I can add. So maybe now I can't see right now which one is a blog post, which one is a video. Likely though, I would want them to appear on the same day. So what can happen is if I click on one of these, it will just kind of automatically add it to today's date and you can move it around. This is not the best way to schedule dates. The way that I actually like to schedule dates, if I've got content that doesn't have a date yet, I actually like to have the same table side by side. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. But first, let's take a look at gallery view before I do before I show you the calendar. So let's take a look at, let's look at list first. So a list view is a really nice clean way to see information. So here you can see everything in just this really neat, like tidy list. So if we go back when I showed you the breakdown of this training, this is a list view. So it's really, really clean. This is still a table, but it's just it's just a much cleaner look. So here you can see this is a list view, but you can see there's a little page beside all of them, but the one that has information in the body has these little lines. So you know that when you open this one, there's going to be content in the body, whereas these other ones do not have any content. And so I see a question here with, are you able to create a public calendar to share with people? Yes, you can do that. So you can have pages that you share publicly. For example, right now, I wouldn't do this with this example, but if I wanted to share this page publicly, I can click share up at the top. I can toggle share to web. I can copy this link, and I can change what I have here. So do I allow people to make this as a template? If I'm just sharing when my content is coming up, I'm going to toggle that off. If you have the Personal Pro, now this is I do have the Personal Pro plan, but because I created a separate workspace for this demo, it's on the personal plan. But if you have Personal Pro and you pay for it, you can actually have it show up in SEO. You can allow people to edit or comment on it. But if you're just trying to get information out there, you would just want to share it to the web, copy the link, and then probably turn off the template if you're just using it more like a website. So that's really easy to do. The thing that you have to watch for, which I know Matt learned, is that if you are sharing content, we'll talk about this when we talk about sharing in a later part, but there are some limitations to what you can hide and show. And so if you're showing stuff from your original table, they'll be able to see probably more information than you want them to see, which is not ideal. But I'm going to park that for now. So let's take a look now at the gallery view, and then I'll talk about sorting and filtering. So gallery view, this is where it shows up like cards. And so now you've got these cards, and there's not much to show on here. Now it defaults to show content. So if there's anything in the body, it will show that. So if you have checklists or if you have an outline, you can see that at a glance, but you could change that. So maybe so when you click on properties will allow you to say, okay, well, what do I want to show on my card preview? Now, if I say none, it will actually collapse these. So now they'll be smaller and just look like little cards. And maybe I want actually to show some things like which platform is this? Or maybe I want to say which type of content is this? Maybe I just want to see the type. So you could do something like this where you can now see this gallery view of all of your content. And then if you do want to have an image, you can go back to properties and you could say you want your card preview to be a page cover or page content. Or if you do have, let's say you have thumbnails for all of your videos, or you have a featured image for your blog posts, you could choose that and that would show up. And as we build this out, we can see a few examples of that. The gallery view can look really nice if you're adding, let's say, all of your thumbnails or featured images, then you would see those here. We just don't have that built yet. So those are the different views. Now let's talk about filtering and sorting. And so let's say I don't want to, maybe I just want to see video only. So and maybe I want to change the name of this. So instead of gallery view, maybe I just want to call this videos. And that way I'm filtering out the blog post. So I can change the name of this. So now it's called videos. And now I want to filter, and I can have it. So there are two ways you could do this. So I could either say where the type of content is not blog. So that's one way. So now none of the blog posts are going to show up on here. It's just going to be my videos. So that's one way that you could filter. The alternate way is that I could say I want it where type is recorded video, and then add another filter and say, or type is live stream. So that's another option of how you can do it. It depends on what you're doing. Sometimes it's easier to just go by omitting the stuff you don't want to see, or you could add the stuff you do want to see. That's an example of having having a filter. And then if you want to sort your information, this is where you can choose how you want to sort. And this will probably be better when we actually have some dates, because a really nice thing would be sorting by date. Right now, though, we could sort by the type. Maybe you want to have all of your recorded videos showing first. There's ascending and descending, and this will depend on the order that you've got the tag. So for example, when I'm clicking on a project and I see this is the order that it's going to show up in, it'll show recorded, then live stream, then blog. If I grab this and change the order of how things show up, now it'll flip. So now live stream is the first thing. So when it says the order of a list, that's how you're getting the order. Okay, so we've got some different content. Now let's go back to this little list and check it. So we've got the different views that you can see, the filtering and sorting. And now let's talk about templates. So templates are fantastic for being able to quickly repeat information over and over. And when it comes to a template, the other thing is just visually, they can add your icons, especially if you have custom icons that you want to bring into your work. And so let's take a look at how you could create some templates. And there are a couple of different types of templates when it comes to Notion. So you'll see, actually my head is covering it, so let's move this over. If you look here, there are templates, which are people have created a workspace in Notion that you can use as a template to start your own. For example, I have a content creation template, which is an entire Notion sort of workspace or page that someone else can duplicate into their own workspace and start using that. So that's one way you might hear the term template. Another way that you might hear the term template is for here, where you say templates for content. This is a template for your database where you have already pre-selected some of the properties that you want to apply or having an icon associated with that. That is a great way for you to use templates. And then the other way that you'll see template is what we call a template button. For example, if I click down here and I have the slash and I start to write template, there's a thing called a template button, and that is where it will help you just quickly add information. We're going to see both examples, but right now we are focusing on a database template. So up in the top corner, you can say, I want a new template. So this is going to be a content template. When you have a template, you'll see this bar across the top and it will say that you're editing a template and it'll tell you the database that you're working in. So maybe I want to have a template that's called new live stream. And so the type is always going to be a live stream. The status, I mean, you can have it set maybe where you have it to idea, or you could leave this blank depending on what you want, but that is maybe it's an idea. The platform, let's say you only stream to one place every time. And so for example, for me, I only stream live to YouTube. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to leave date empty because I don't have a standard date that I always do. I don't have a standard description, a link, a thumbnail. Tags, you could have a few different templates and I can show you an example of that. But for right now, I'm going to leave that empty. So these are the main things that I want, but maybe I want to have an icon every time I do a live stream. So when you click icon, it'll just give you whatever. I think sometimes it tries to guess. But let's say that I want to upload an image and I have some Notion icons because of course I do. And I've got some social icons. So here I actually have a YouTube icon. So I think this looks nice because I can easily see when there's content in my database that is a YouTube video, which might be different than a blog post. And so now I've got this icon, I've got these different statuses. And the other thing you can do when you click on icon is you can choose a link. And so any link, if you copy the link address or the image address on a website, you can paste that in there. And maybe we can do a demonstration of that. So let's do new live stream, and maybe I'll call it new YouTube live stream. Now I click back and now I have a template here. So anytime I want to create a new YouTube live stream and I want to use that template, I can click new YouTube live stream. It will automatically populate with the icon. It'll populate with these different things here, and then I'm going to give it a name. So maybe here I want to have one that's called tracking workouts in Notion. Now I've got this idea here, and then I can say, okay, maybe actually I'm in the research phase for this. And this one is going to be a tip and trick or a case study, and I can leave it there. So now I've got this new one here and it has this nice icon for YouTube. I see a question. Can you assign team members and use this as a task manager? Yes. Yes, I know who you are, David. So yes, you can do this. Absolutely. If you have guests in your space, so right now I don't have any guests in my space, but if I were to invite a person to this workspace, I could actually add their name. And so let's take a look. Maybe I want to add something called, who, and I can say it's going to be a person. So I am a person in this, so I could say it's assigned to me. So it can be assigned. You could change this. Maybe you don't want it. You can say assigned to, and then have that as the category. But you can absolutely assign this to people on the team, and they can get notified anytime that they're assigned to a task. And so if you have more than one person, you can absolutely do that. Let's do another template. So let's add a new template, and this one will be a blog post. And maybe for the icon for this, I want to have this little writing. You can choose whatever you want. Maybe you want to choose a computer. Maybe you want to have a custom icon. You can do that. And so, or actually, let's do an example. I'm going to go onto the web, and I'm going to look up the WordPress logo. Maybe you have a WordPress site. Maybe you have Squarespace, whatever you want. When you go to a website, so I'm going to bring this over here into your view. So I have this logo here. If you click on an image, you can does this not? It's because I'm using Safari, isn't it? Let's try this. It's usually the image link. I don't usually use Safari, but I use it for my live streams. Let's try. Will this work? No, it needs to be the image address. So in Brave, Brave or Chrome or any of those, which I am going to open up quickly so I can do this demo. So in your browser, here we've got a browser open, and let's see, let's go here, and I'm going to look up WordPress logo and maybe click on images. So when you have an image, you can right click and you can copy the image address. So just a little bit faster, copy image address. Once you click that, and then you go here to the icon, you paste the link for the image address, and there you have it. Now you have this logo showing up, which I just aesthetically, I really like having custom logos in the workspace. So that is an example of how you can quickly add an icon from the web, is you want to copy that image address. So now here, this is going to be a blog post. The status, maybe you start with idea. Platform, you know what? Maybe I am going to actually add website to here. And that's where I want that to live, website. And then these I'm going to leave empty. Maybe if I always want to know, if I'm the person always doing the blog post, I could add myself if I have that field. So now I've got this template here. So we go back, now we have a couple of different templates. So you can see how you can add these templates. Maybe, and let's do another one where I want to have a recorded video. And this the title that you give it, this is just the title of the template. Anytime you actually start, when you click on that template, the title will be empty. Some people can't stand this, but I do understand why. It's because each entry technically should have a different name in it. So here we want to have a new recorded video, and maybe for this, I'm actually going to be posting my recorded video to, let's say, YouTube and Facebook. So I have a little one here that's got sort of both of those together. This is something I made in Canva. You can easily make this in Canva if you have a Canva account. So for type for this is going to be a recorded video. The status will start with idea, and the platform, this example, has Facebook and YouTube. So this is another great example of how you can have your template. So now I've got a few different templates. You can also reorder them if you want to have them in that certain way. But if you wanted to, you could have, have a new YouTube live stream. Maybe I also want to dabble with Twitch, and like everyone has a different strategy. I can actually duplicate this template. So maybe I want to duplicate this one. So it's going to be a live stream, but I'm going to change this to Twitch. And then here I'm going to just change the image. And I think I have a Twitch one. Yeah, here. Got a little Twitch social icon. So now I've created a new one. Oh, that went away on me. Type live stream. And then idea. So now I have a new Twitch live stream. So now you can see how I've created another one. So I've got 2 different live stream options, a recorded video one, a blog post video one. So now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to save time for later, by having these different types. Hey, Paul's here. Oh, hey, Launchpad Astronomy. Christian, hi. And Coffee Talk and Tech. Thanks for joining. Oh, French Press. Geez, I have been so focused on my my Notion build that I didn't notice all these lovely new faces coming in here. Did I miss anything? Okay. Jumped in and both. Okay, wait. What? I have so much to learn. There is a lot to learn. I hope that I'm going at a pace where I'm not overwhelming anyone. Please let me know if I don't want to go too quickly, but also too slowly. And this is going to be recorded, so you can always go back and watch again. There's also a lot of amazing resources on Notion online. So yeah, Saturday morning, Notion and Hour Talk. That is my ideal Saturday morning. Okay. And so Patrick is saying here, started using it exclusively for notes and work meetings. If someone is sharing their screen, I take a screenshot and drag and drop that. Yeah. So that's a really good point. So if I take a screenshot, this might be a little bit meta, but let's take a screenshot of this dashboard. Maybe I just want to show what it's looking like so far. So I just took a screenshot, and maybe in my, when I'm doing this video about formulas, I want to capture this. I can go here. So I press / and I start to type the word image. I can click on image, and now I can actually choose an image here. And I just took a screenshot. I have a lot of screenshots. And now I have my image directly in the body of this. So if you are taking notes, and maybe you're watching a webinar or something like that, or maybe you've got an idea for a video that's coming up, you can just paste this image directly in the body here. The other thing I want to show you is that I've got all these ideas, but they don't have the icons because I created these templates after I listed all of these ideas. Well, I can open it and you'll see if there's nothing in the body, now all of these templates that I've made, they'll actually show up here. So I can apply the template and it will update this information. Now it won't override. So here's an example where I have live stream already and I've got YouTube. So if I say click on the new YouTube live stream, what it will do is it'll update it with this logo. So now it looks like the other templates, and it's now filled in idea because idea wasn't in there. And so if you ever want to see these again, this is something I learned pretty late. If you put your cursor here and just say backspace or delete, you'll see them again. So maybe I'm like, actually it's going to be a Twitch live stream. So it will change the icon, but it won't override this stuff because it doesn't want to undo information, because maybe you have custom changed this. So here though, I would actually go and I would manually change Twitch and get rid of YouTube. And maybe it's actually not an idea and maybe I'm in prep mode for this. So this is an example where this is how you can see, if you just go backspace, you'll see all of your templates, which means that if you were to actually just click new here and start typing something, so maybe this one is going to be a social media gallery where you can save all of your social media bios. When I open this, I can just go and maybe I have a blog post about this, and then I can click on the template. And so now it will apply this template that I have here. And remember, if you ever are realizing you're doing something more than once, and like anytime you're repeating something more than once, I really recommend just saying, okay, I want a new template for that. Because that's a really helpful way to do that. So let's do a few more. These are all blogs. So I'm going to just quickly go in here, say new blog, and here say new blog. And this is, we'll do live stream. So you can just kind of go and you can update some of the ones that you've got here. Maybe this is going to be on both. This one is recorded. It's going to be on both. So you can see I'm now updating these rather quickly. There might be a better way to do this, but when it comes to applying the template, this is usually the way that. Now this one, I have stuff in the body. And so this is where maybe I don't want to delete all of this stuff so I can see the templates. So I would personally just go in and add the template or add the icon manually. And so here I just need to go back into my icons, and this is my Notion icons, my social, and let's add that one. So that's the only thing that's a bit of a pain. If you've got stuff in the body, you won't see that template. So here you can see now we're sort of building out this content. Okay, any other questions before I go on to the next thing? Hey, John, nice to see you here. Yes, you can be entertained by Paul. Okay. Okay. Hey, Monica, thanks so much for joining. Let's see. Marcus, I would be, okay, this is actually a really, really great point, and I want to talk about this for a second. I'd be afraid of spending my time tweaking Notion instead of doing the actual work. That is a definite, I don't want to say threat because it's really fun, but this is true. This is a real thing. And what I would say when it comes to Notion is set some boundaries. So I personally set some boundaries where when I was first building, I knew I could easily spend the next few weeks just tinkering in Notion. And so I specifically set targets for work. And I said, okay, I can only build more Notion after I've like reached out to a certain number of clients because I was building a customer relationship management thing at the time. Or maybe I can only go back and tweak after I've made a certain number of videos. Like you can do certain things with it where you give yourself boundaries. The other kind of general rule is I try not to build Notion during the work day. So I'll say if it's evening, instead of watching TV, movie, reading, I'm going to build Notion. Or weekend morning, I love building Notion on Saturdays and Sundays. So I go to town outside of work hours so that this doesn't you want to have Notion help you do the work. At the start, you might spend a little bit more time, and maybe you want to set aside a day where you just work on your space so that you can then get organized and off and running quickly. So what else? You can drag and drop the image right into Notion. Thank you for that. I'm a little bit behind. Do you have a lot of screenshots because your Dama looks so good today? That's funny. I do have a lot of, you probably know this. Thumbnails. I take screenshots of videos. So a lot of those are actually of me, which is just awkward, but yeah. Okay. Just checking to see if there are any questions before I move on to the next thing. And I also don't want to go on forever. So Matt says the intro to formulas in Notion entry has a little icon. Oh, that one, I think I might have answered that. It had that little page, and that was just because it had content in the body. So the way that you get rid of that is by having icons. So I love having icons on everything. So even today when I created this little, like, what are we going to talk about on this live build? I made sure that I had little icons on it because also aesthetically, I find that very pleasing. And I would encourage you, so these are examples of icons that I made in Canva, and thinking of colors as well. If you want to color code your Notion space, some people really like a very clean black and white and gray aesthetic to their Notion, which can be great. If you like to incorporate colors, I encourage you to just make some nice icons, and then you can have a really, like, actually this is bothering me. So I'm going to change this because first of all, I'm not going to be going on Twitch, and second of all, it's inconsistent. So how do you want to have these things? And you might want to order them. Like this default view, I might say, I want to sort this by the type so that I don't see all those icons all jumbled up like that. So that looks better to me because I'm a little bit, what's the word? Monica, the Notion vortex. Yes, you can get sucked into the vortex, and it is addictive. And so what I recommend, David, you mentioned a lot of ideas, grab those ideas. So the Sandbox, for anyone who came a little bit later, just list all your ideas. Everything that and if you want, I recommend to-do boxes. So if you click / and start to write to-do, you can get a to-do list. Start saying, what are all the things I want to do with my space? Maybe I want to make some custom icons. I want to make some templates. Maybe I want to start adding thumbnails, like uploading them. So whatever it is you want to do, just start listing. And then when you actually start doing them, you can start to cross these off the list. But having a place where you just dump all of your ideas is a really good idea. The Sandbox, actually, just as a precursor, what I would do probably is create a page. And so for creating a new page, you can say, start typing page. And this is maybe where I have, ideas for my Notion space. And if you go back to the Sandbox, you can grab all of these blocks and just drag them into your ideas page. And so now you have this ideas page because maybe you want to, have a test tracker. Also, I just wrote test tracker. You can click on this and you can say turn into a page. So now I have a page called test tracker. So your sandbox, you might actually want just different pages of ideas so that you can try out different things. And again, here you'll see this has stuff on the page. So it's got those little lines. This one doesn't. If you click directly on the icon, you can actually upload an icon. So maybe this is, let's do like a little thought bubble. Maybe this is for ideas and maybe for test tracker. And I'll just put that. So you can add your own little icons there. Okay. So, and then Matt's saying having your data cataloged in Notion is worth doing. So yeah, you might want to commit a little bit of time to getting it set up, but do be careful of how much time you're spending because you don't want to not be productive. It's a productivity app. And then Patrick, nice thing is you can build things as you go. Yes, exactly. Like if I realize that I have another type of, I add a new video, I have another type, I can just add another entry, something else to the list. Okay. I'm really behind on my comments here. Okay. What website? Oh, okay. John, asking about what website. So this, I actually am using the Notion app. So notion.so. If you go into a website, so if I actually go notion.so, so I'll drag this into the screen here. So the actual website, notion.so, you can create your own, you can start a free account. The free account does so much. And once you are logged in, I'm not logged in this browser, you can actually do the work in a browser. So there's a browser-based option. Right now, I am actually using an app. So you can download Notion to your actual device. And of course, I have a Notion button on my Stream Deck to quickly access Notion. Yeah, great place to drop ideas. Okay, and it's not .com, yes. And the website, yeah, Patrick, the website is really, it really is just like the app. So you can choose whichever one works for you. And if you invite people into your space, let's say you're doing a collaboration, they do need to create a free account if they're going to edit. Otherwise, they'll just kind of see the page and they can't do things. Okay, so now I want to show you how I like to organize my information. And that's kind of the last thing I'm going to do for today's start of the live build. So I'm going to first show you how to create columns on your page, because this is a dashboard. And I'm going to be having a calendar view. So if we go to the calendar view, this is where we're going to see all the dates. But beside it, I want to have all of my, I want a list of all my unscheduled content. So let's do that. So the first thing we are going to do is I'm going to create a heading. And so maybe I want the first heading to be called scheduled content. And maybe just for fun, let's change the color of this. So you can click on those dots and change this to, maybe I want this to be blue. You can also change the background color if you want to have more of this whole back area. And you can change both the color and the text. So if I grab this, usually you'll get, it's not working for me right now. So let's say we want this. I'm going to drag this up above this here. Now, the way to make a column is you want to drag one block beside the other block. So I'm going to create a second heading. So it could be any block. I could even have an empty block. Like right now, this is technically an empty block. I can drag this all the way to the far side and then drop it. And so we'll do that one more time. So I take this block, and it could have writing. Maybe I just have writing on it. You grab that block, bring it all the way to the side until you see a little bar show up beside that heading. And now you have two columns side by side. And then there's a little bar. When you hover, you'll see the bar, and you can drag this over. And so this is my second column. And I want to have another heading here. So I'm going to say I'd like a main heading, and I'm going to call this unscheduled. And I can turn this background blue if I like. You can do whatever you want. Some people don't like using the bars. And now I've got this table. Now, if I were to grab this table, this database is a block, but if I were to try and drag this to the side, no bar is ever going to appear on the side. It's just a quirk. I cannot do that. But what I can do is drag this block under scheduled content. And now you can see that there's just the blue bar under the heading scheduled content. If I drop that or let go, now I've got the calendar here and I have this blank column to the right. So hopefully I did that and people can understand how I did that. And so now I want to have a copy of this same content calendar, but I'm going to filter it so I just see anything that doesn't have a date attached to it. Now there are a couple of ways I can do this. What I'm going to do is it's a linked table, meaning I'm linking to another table. So if I start to say create linked database and I click on that, now it says which database do you want to have live here? And I want the content one. If you have a lot, you can just start to type. So if I started to write content, then content would show up and I'm going to click that. And so now I am pulling the exact same side by side, and we can even kind of make this, I can kind of drag it a little bit more. So now I can see anything that has a date, which right now is just one item has a date. And then beside, this is everything, including the thing that has the date. So you can see my meal planning right here. So what I can do is you can decide, how do I want this to look? Do I want to have the table view? Do I want to have maybe a list view? Might be technically a little bit cleaner. It's up to you. But what we want to do is filter it. Now, a quirk is that because this is such a narrow column right now, I am going to temporarily drag this over so that I can see this blue show up. Whenever it's really narrow and you can only go so far. So just temporarily, I'm going to drag this over so I can see all of these options. And under these three little dots here, this is where I would say I'm going to filter. And I'm going to have only stuff where the date is empty. So it means there's no date assigned to it. And maybe I don't want to see all of this information here. I don't want assigned to. Anytime you create a linked database, the properties that you see, all of these columns, they show up in alphabetical order. And so maybe I want to customize this. So when you click on those three dots, you can click on your properties. And this is where I'm going to turn off who it's assigned to. I'm going to turn off what clothing I'm wearing. There is no date here, so I'm going to turn that off. I don't need to see the description. I don't need to see the link, but maybe I do want to see the status. And maybe I want to see the status first. So I'm going to drag the status up here. And then I want to see the platform and maybe the tags, and I can turn off these. Or maybe I actually want to see type first. So I'm going to drag type to the top. So now what I've done is I've sort of reorganized this information. And so I'm going to drag this over a little bit. I'm going to drag this, make this smaller. I'm going to make this smaller. And then I'm going to make this a bit smaller. And then the tag, I mean, it's going to be narrow, so it doesn't really matter. But now I've got it filtered, so it's only showing me stuff that doesn't have a date yet. If you want, you can sort this in a certain way if you'd like. And I'm going to now drag this kind of back over. And this is where the magic happens, in my opinion. This is where I plan my content. So let's just say that I am going to map out my content for the next few weeks. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, what do I want to have first? So maybe because I'm just starting out with this channel, I want to talk about filtered views. So maybe I'm going to have, on Monday the 17th, I'm going to talk about filtered views. And on then the next Monday, I'm going to talk about meal planning. And then the next Monday, I'm going to talk about habit tracking. And what I'm doing now is I am dragging and dropping these into dates. As soon as I open this, the date will actually be applied to it. And so, but maybe I say, you know what? I don't want to do that on the 17th. Maybe I want to do this on next Monday. I can drag it here and then I can see that the date has been updated to May the 10th. And I actually want to talk about the library here on the 17th. Or if I say, I'm not ready to do the meal planning one right now, I'm going to grab meal planning and I'm going to drag it back and drop it over here. So now when I open this meal planning, there's no more date. because it now takes on the properties of this table, which is that none of these have a date. So this is where I like Notion blows my mind, is because you can easily do that. Maybe instead I'm going to talk about tracking workouts in Notion. So Mondays are my live day. And now let's look at my recorded videos that I'm going to post. Maybe I'm going to have Thursdays where I post a recorded video, and I'll have my first one ready on the 20th, and then I'll have my next one ready on the 27th. And the blogs I want to launch on the same day. So my habit tracking one is the 31st. So let's do the habit tracking also on the 31st. And my library one will go on the 17th. And the social media gallery doesn't actually have a video associated with it. So maybe this is just a blog post on its own. And I want to have this one show up on Tuesday. So you can just start playing around and planning how your content, like what are the dates that your content is going to come into play. All right. Oh, hey, kombucha. I still use your Notion template for my content. Love it. Thank you. That's great. I love the changes that you made to it. And so I have a free content creation template, which is based off of this principle that you have your unscheduled on the right and you have your scheduled on the main calendar. But I know that Kim made some changes to it, which were really great. So, and Patrick says this is the perfect tool for my ultra wide monitor. Yeah, the resolution actually does help. Now, I don't know if this is the same for PC, but on a Mac, if you just hold down Command and the plus or minus, I can actually make, if I want to zoom out, I'm just pressing Command minus. So now I can, it's smaller and I can kind of zoom out. So I can see the whole month. This is just really bad for you because I am live streaming this. So I just kind of press the Command plus a few times and I make it bigger so that you can actually see it. Okay. And then do people still buy? Yes, John, we got some PC friends. So that is what I do want to say about this content. Now this also, if I look at this and I say, you know what, this heading is huge and unsightly, I can actually just turn this. Maybe I want to turn this into a slightly smaller heading. So you can do little things like that to customize it. This is mostly me just looking at it right now and having second thoughts. Okay. With the drag and drop, what I want to preface for you is to be careful. If you decide, you know what, I'm not going to do this meal plan thing on the 8th. If I want to drag this back to the unscheduled, you want it to be a bar. You don't want it to like highlight over something. If I were to drag this, it's not happening right now, but maybe they fixed it. You could accidentally put it into a page and it's not doing it right now. So maybe it's a change. That would be good. But if I drag these, you just want to make sure that it shows up. And if you accidentally drag it down here, it's actually no longer in the database. So if I click on it, it has just become a page, an empty page. And so you want to make sure if you are dragging things that you drag it into the table. And it's very easy if you make that mistake, just drag it in the table. Now when you open it, now it has all the properties of the table because it's in the table. But when you drag it out, it's no longer in the table. That it gets a little bit confusing, but hopefully that's not too confusing for you. And let's say, but I'm going to move that back to a day. So now I've got to look at all of the dates for my content. I can see exactly what's coming up, but maybe I want to see some extra properties on the calendar. So when I click on these three little dots and I go into properties, this is where maybe I want to turn something on. Maybe I want the status to show up here. Maybe I want the categories or tags to show up on here. So you can sort of toggle on and off what it is. If you have more than one person working on it, you can say who is actually working on it and their name can pop up. And so that's a nice way that you can customize this and see, okay, what's the status of these? You could also, if you want to use a checkbox for something, maybe you want to see if something is done or not, you can check it off. So maybe let's actually just create a new property. Perhaps you have one that's called thumbnail and it's a checkbox whether or not you have a thumbnail ready. So maybe on this one, I actually have a thumbnail already and I want to be able to see that. So I can go to properties and I can turn on this checkbox. And so at a glance, I can see which ones have a thumbnail and which ones don't. So that's just another example of how easy it is to change your properties. You can just add them on the fly if you realize there's something that you want to start tracking. Okay. Oh, I think John has upset some PC users. Okay. So whatever works for you. So liking the user interface. Oh, I think you probably mean Notion. Using ClickUp. So I have not used ClickUp. I know Doc Rock had a ClickUp expert, I think it's Evie, on his live stream showing ClickUp. And so ClickUp can do a lot, absolutely. And I would say, I will preface and say Notion is not going to be for everyone. We are going to build out over the next few weeks. I'm going to slowly kind of build out more and more so you can see how you can customize it, how you can make this your own. Next week is really exciting because I'm going to talk about tasks, how you can actually assign, like maybe each week you create your thumbnail and you do your keyword research and you write your outline and, all those little steps that go into content creation. Obviously, I'm very video centric because that's what I mostly do for my content. But no matter what, maybe you're making a podcast and you want to track your guest that's coming on the podcast, recording, editing, all of that stuff. You have tasks every single week that happen in order to get that content out. We're going to have a task database and we're going to connect it to this one. And so then you can see exactly what you have to do for that video. So that's the thing that we are going to talk about next, but I will totally acknowledge that this is not for everyone and that using a task manager or project manager like ClickUp or like Asana or something like that might work really well. I know Trello, seen some great examples of how people can organize their content. This is one option. It's one that I love, and so I want to show how you can use it and you can decide whether or not this is right for you. I personally love how much I can customize this. And so another example just of customization is I have, it wouldn't be applicable here, but I have a view that I have called list I think it's a table, that it's just called links. So every single piece of content that I have that has a link, so I filter it and I say anything where the link is not empty, meaning there's a link, it will all show up in this list. So if there's a link to it, meaning it's published, it's out there in the world, I can just go here quickly. I can sort it. Usually I would say sort by date so that the date is maybe ascending, maybe it's descending order, and I can quickly grab what I want. So there's just so much you can do with this. One quick thing before I wrap up this first live build is the default page or the default view of your database is always going to show up as the one that's on the top of this list. So if I want calendar to be my default, you want to drag calendar to the top and that will always be the one. And if you're sharing with another person, so if I invited someone to this content dashboard, they're going to see the first one on this list. So you might be using the calendar view, but if that's not your first one, when someone else shows up, they're just going to see whatever's on the top. So that's helpful to know. Okay, so see a couple of things here. John is saying, I was watching, was watching the tutorial on NDI. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, a little bit of a different pace with this video. And Patrick is saying, I think this is an awesome option because a lot of the project managers have gotten complicated. Well, and so here, this is what changed it for me is that in my personal opinion, it is so valuable for me to be able to, if I have an idea and I say, okay, you know what? I want to have a video called Notion versus ClickUp. Like I just came up with that idea because someone just asked, how is this different from ClickUp? So I drop that in here. I can kind of open this up and I can apply a little template. Maybe this is going to be a live stream. Maybe I'll have a guest. I can quickly do that. I've got this idea captured here. And then when I say I'm going to do this, maybe I want to go next month and I'm going to do this video here. And I can just open this up and I can just start saying ideas. And I can say, you know, compare a case study in both Notion and ClickUp for a direct comparison. So what I can do, I used to go into like either my notes or into Google Docs and then into the Google Sheets, organize the dates, etc. What I just did in a minute was I grabbed the idea, I slapped it on a date. You don't have to do that right away. I started to write an idea, and then maybe when it actually comes time, we can have the outline. And then, oh, is it? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show you one more thing. I know I keep saying that I'm going to end, but this actually is part of the template lesson. But I can start to write my outline. I can do all of the work in here. And right now, like I actually have, so I'll show you an example of my own workspace. So on my screen, on my other screen, because I have two monitors, you will see an example. Actually, I didn't get very far because I knew this was a live build. But I'm going to show you, this is my workspace. I have this open right here. This is my Notion for Content Creation live build part 1. I have all of my tasks that are directly connected to this. So all the actions, which I'm going to show you next week, those are from another task table. I have which channel this is on because, as some of you know, I have more than one channel. I have the date, the status is that it's scheduled. Now technically it's published. I've got the channel, I've got the description that I have the connected content, which is parts 2, 3, and 4. I have it connected to my planner, so I have the month. I didn't upload the media for this, but I can. And then down here, I actually have my actions. This is where I plan out my actions or the tasks connected to this video. And then down here in my templates for live streams, I have a show flow where I started to write, okay, how I'm going to introduce this thing. This is though where I stopped because I didn't really do the rest of it. So that's an example where every time I do a live stream, I have Notion open with all of the notes that I planned directly in Notion. I don't know if people might use ClickUp or Asana to do that, but I don't know if they do. However, I have a template. So I do want to show you a template. So let's go in here and I'm going to edit my live stream template. So I go here and I click edit. And down here, let's actually put an outline. So I'm going to do a heading and I'm going to call this outline. And you saw before, I had a little toggle so that I can kind of toggle it up or down if I want to. So to create a toggle, you can press slash and start to type toggle, or you can actually just do one of these guys and then press enter. It takes a toggle. So this is where I might call this show flow. And under this toggle, I'm going to say that I want to start with a hook. And then maybe I say insert hook. And then I want to have my intro where I say my name, which I definitely did not do today. And then here I want to maybe do a call for engagement. And this I want to highlight and make this background yellow so that it stands out. And then I want to have maybe I just do bold, say main point 1. And then I have some bullet points. And then I can have, let's do another call for engagement, and I can just do option to copy it, which I think I taught you guys. Option. Oh, there we go. Call for engagement. And then I want main point 2. And this is me just using the option or alt. And actually I can drag these. So let's copy these. And then actually I can just do this. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just making this outline right now. And then perhaps at the end, I want to have, this closing thoughts. I don't know why I'm doing all caps. I just am. And then maybe I want to do a call to action if applicable. Maybe I have something that I want people to go to or check out or whatnot. So right now what I've done is I've created this outline for a show flow, and I can kind of toggle this if I want it to be kind of closed or neater. And then if I go back now, if I say I want to do a new live stream, I've got my icon, I've got these are started to be filled out, and then I've got this show flow. So I can just go and I can just fill out this template. And this is one of the reasons that I love, and I can open this as a full page if I want to just concentrate and work on this specific video. So this is why I love Notion. And when it comes to, and now you'll see the new one is created, but I never gave it a title, so it's in here. But this is one of the reasons that I just find it so functional, because you can customize it, but also you can do the work in it. And that is really big for me. That's something that's really important. So, okay, I'm seeing, Thomas is saying, what is Notion? So Notion is a productivity software. So it's an all-in-one workspace it's customizable, meaning when you get it, it's sort of a blank canvas and you have to create. So what I've just done with today's live is actually from scratch started to create this content dashboard. So you can kind of build along if you want to give it a try. It's completely free, so you can test it out, see if you like it, kind of play around with it. There are a lot of options, so I would say don't get frustrated or flustered just yet. If you give it some time, you can definitely learn the tool. And I'm trying to start basic, but showing you some of the fun things that it can do. It's not just a table. You can do so much more. Okay, what else? I see. Okay, question. Okay, Monica. Is it possible to copy a template from one table to another? Yes. So, template. Sorry. If I meant you can move something from another database into, like, let's say you had just an ideas database where you just want ideas and nothing else. You could drag those over. Template, I don't actually know. I'll just fully confess that I'm not sure if you can, but they're so easy to make that I would just say make a new template and just add the stuff that you need. Because you can duplicate it, but this will duplicate within this same table. And really, because each template is you're doing the properties for that database, it really, I don't know how easily it would change. But if you wanted to say have a little, maybe you have a second just ideas database, like maybe just off to the side here, I wanted to have ideas, and I can actually just say I want to create a new, I start to write like a list, and this is a brand new, it's not content. Maybe this one is just called ideas. I could do this, and maybe one of my ideas is, just to go on that other example, this really doesn't want to delete. Maybe I want to say Asana versus Notion as an idea that I have. Then what I can do here is, right now there's only two properties. When you create a list, they usually have the created tag and then just a tag. But if I were to then drag this into actual content, knowing I want to make it, now if we open this, it will now have the properties from this content table. And then I could say I want this to be a recorded video, and I apply the template. So you can see how pages can travel between, say, an ideas one and a content one. I personally like to just throw my ideas in directly in the content one and just list it as an idea. But maybe you want to have an ideas page that you share with another person, and you don't actually give them access to your content calendar, but you just want them to be able to drop ideas there. You could have a shared page with ideas with another person, and you could just gather those. So that's another option that you have. Okay, so I'm seeing some non-Notion questions, but I'm not sure. I feel like I'm not sure if it's a side conversation going on around NDI, so I'm just gonna maybe skip that for now. Okay, so okay, Monica, that helped. Great. All right. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. No, please talk amongst yourselves. I just don't know if you're actually asking me questions right now. Okay, so if we go back just to sum things up, today I showed you creating your main content database, the types of properties that you can add. So always think, what would I want to capture? How do I want to organize my content? You saw the multiple views that you can do, how to filter and sort. We looked at creating a database template so that you have something set each time and repeat it. I showed you how to make columns, and then also showed you that linked database, which is having this exact same. So it's the content database. Anytime it's got an arrow, it means it's a linked database. This content does not have an arrow right here, so that means it's the original database. That's the first original one that I made, and then this one is a linked view, so you can see it side by side. The other quick thing I'll say is that you can add a cover. Maybe you want to have a cover. They have a bunch of options kind of built in that you could choose. Maybe you want to have a nice space cover, but you can also upload. You can link from the web, which I showed earlier, or you can use Unsplash. Maybe you want to have a nice picture of a computer or some tech in here for your content dashboard. And then you can also add an icon, and you can choose one of the icons that they have. Maybe you just want to have a computer for your content dashboard, or maybe you want to have your own custom icon, and you can do that, and then it'll show up in the side, which my head is cutting off a little. So you can see now you've got your icons on the side. When you click this toggle, anything you've put on this page, so you've got the content, your main database, you've got your related database, and I also built this little last minute ideas database, so you'll be able to see those if you drop down. Any sub pages you create would also show up under here. Sort of like Sandbox, I have these two pages, they'll show up here. So that's week 1. If you're interested to come along for part 2, that's where we're going to get into those actions. So I showed you a sample of my video where I had all of the actions that are connected to that video. I'm going to show you how to do that so that you can have all of the tasks that are associated, but also what are your checklists? What process do you follow in order to create content? So how do we capture that, and how do we make sure that you don't miss any of those steps week after week, so that you are thoroughly doing what you need to do to get your content out there? And how do you connect those so that you can see exactly what you have to do? So that is Notion part 1 of my 4-part series. I'm going to make sure I don't have any other Notion related questions. I think I've covered them. Oh, no, I see a question here. Is there a tool that syncs up your Notion with Google? Okay, so right now Notion has said that their upcoming API, they've hinted heavily that the calendar is part of the API. There is right now a group that has put together, I think it's called Notion Automations. I started the sign up process, but I haven't actually gone through with it. But so you can use a Zap if you have Zapier for your business tools. I think I'm going to wait until Notion's API in order to start playing around with calendar stuff. Right now, no, they're not connected. If you do want to look into Notion automations right now, that's one option you could try. I just haven't fully tried it yet, but they are coming out with their API soon. And Dean, I don't know if you're still here. I just saw you say hello. Okay, there we are. So Notion part 1, this is going to be, you can watch this again. I'm going to leave this up. It'll be part of the Notion I'll have a playlist with these 4 videos all together. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this was a helpful introduction, that maybe you were building along beside me, or maybe you'll go back and kind of watch and build slowly. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments if there's something you specifically want to see, and I can address them in one of the upcoming Notion live builds. But I love talking about this. I hope this was helpful. So thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday, and I will talk to you guys all soon. Bye.